Hi guys, some of you have probably seen on eBay these She hair straighteners. They claim to be made in the original Korean factory where GHDs were made. They've even used the same model number 3.1B, and I thought it would be interesting to take a look at a pair of these and see if any of it or any part of them have been influenced by the original 3.1s, which we have a pair of here. It's quite surprising to me that GHD allow somebody to use the exact same model number and also claim that they're made in the original Korean factory. That may be the case, but I thought it'd be interesting from a customer's point of view to see if the quality is similar, whether there's any sign of original molds or any of the original parts being used in this new version. And from a repairer's point of view, like myself, I thought it would be interesting to see if any of the parts are interchangeable, the arms, absolutely anything. They had a quick glance, they work at a different temperature, 210 degrees on the She irons, where the GHDs will generally operate, on the GHD website they will operate between 175 and 185 degrees. We think 186 is a correct temperature, but anywhere between 175 and 185, and sometimes above that, slightly above, it would be classed as fairly normal for GHDs. There are a number of different tolerances on the parts that will affect the temperature. So we're going to pop these open. I've been waiting for a pair of these to come up cheap. I didn't buy these full price. They were about £30 and they were described as X demo. Packaging is fairly basic. Obviously they've removed any instructions from the box. So we're just going to compare these with the originals. Well, quick glance shows different cable socket caps, a slightly different design here. The slots in the end are again different. The original GHDs have a blunter end, and these She ones are more rounded, so certainly nothing compatible there. So I think we're just going to have a look at these and take them apart. The socket and LED look very similar in style to the original. I just hold that there, I don't know whether you can see that or not, but yeah, they've got 200 to 240 volts, 35 watts. It's the writing looks pretty much the same. Looks like they've used slightly smaller font on the LED word, and the same on the on switch. But let's pop these hinge covers off and have a look. Pretty much the same cap as 3.1s. Just going to have a closer look. Actually, that's not the 3.1, so what we'll do is we'll just pop that into 3.1, see if it fits. And yes, it does. Of course, you've got She on there rather than GHD, so certainly the hinge covers are the same fitting anyway. The screws very similar again to GHDs. Just get these opened, if you hold on a second. Oh well, that's very loose. Unlike the GHDs that tend to be pretty tight. Same setup. You've got the pretty much identical screw and washer as the original. We'll just check the thread size is the same, and it is. Just pop that hinge pin out. Again, pretty much the same length and diameter. Just lift these out. Well, look, even that's the same. That is exactly the same as the 3.1 spring. Same sizes everywhere. Let's have a look inside. Very interesting. That's the new cover, and we'll just pop one of the originals on and see if it actually fits. And of course, no, it doesn't. And you can see the differences if I hold them together. Hopefully you can see that on the end here. This is the original GHD one, and that's the new She one. Completely different width, same at the back. So obviously the covers are not interchangeable, which is a shame because that could have been quite useful. Yeah, don't see any way you can use that. Let's see if the new one will fit the old genuines. Same story there. They've got bits of plastic here, and whilst the holes actually line up, you would have to trim off some of this plastic here to get that to fit in there. I'll just put the original switch cover back on there. So yeah, you could trim that down, just remove this plastic here with a Dremel, and I think you'll find that that would be acceptable. Certainly the holes line up, so if you did need a cover, you could use that. Now the original 3.1s have the thermal fuse and the element on different connections, and just as a quick look at this, they have clearly gone the other way and are using the trick of putting the thermal fuse in with the element. So I'm just going to undo this. We'll check the resistance of the elements. Yeah, this is this rubbish design of having the small thermal fuse wrapped up in, looks like it, we're going to strip this down in a minute, but it's just wrapped up in some silicone tubing by the looks of it. Backing plate is completely different. Let's just get a reading of the resistance on this, see what that is. I'm sure it's not going to be the same as the others, the originals. In fact, I'm wrong. It's 160 ohms, so exactly the same as the originals. Let's see how easy this is to get apart. Yeah, the whole thing has slid off there. Just going to try and pull that out. Grasp this metal retaining plate. There we go. And throwing it all across the room. So yeah, you can see that the element is directly attached to the thermal fuse, which is wrapped up in this silicon tube. Just going to check the value of the thermal fuse, and that is 240 degrees, which is what we now use in the GHDs when we're repairing them. There's a bit of Captain tape wrapped around the ends, and there's a metal crimp on there. A little bit of thermal paste, not enough I wouldn't think. Let's just have a look, see if that's the same. I would say that the actual mounting plates are exactly the same. I'm just going to grab a genuine backing plate. Right, this is a genuine, sorry, this is a brand new 3.1 mount. Just going to wipe that thermal paste off, and we'll see if this actually fits on here. And whilst it's quite tight, it does actually fit. I will just, I'm sure that would fit into the original. So yes, looks like the ceramic plates will fit the genuine and replacement 3.1 mounting parts. I'm just going to remove that. The spring clip obviously is completely different to allow for the different type of thermal fuse that they've fitted there. So if you do get these sheaths in for repair, you could use the 160 ohm elements for the genuine GHDs, but you would have to modify the thermal fuse to suit. But all perfectly possible. Now they've used the same silicon rubber pieces there, no issues there. Obviously the circuit board is different. I will just pop that out and see if the original circuit board will actually go in there, which we've got here. If I can get one, there we go. Yeah, so the holes unfortunately do not line up. Just have a look at that. Yeah, I don't know whether you can see this, but the board in the new one is longer and the holes are in a slightly different position. So yeah, you can't use the circuit boards, neither, you can't swap them round. So that's of little use to us as a repairer. Have a look at the quality of this circuit board when I've got it out completely. We'll just pop a 3.1 cover on there, see if it fits. Actually, that's not. I'm going to have to take this off of this one. I'll do that in a minute. But for the time being, let's just have a look at the socket arrangement. That's interesting because obviously these have been sold as working perfectly and new. But have a quick look at that socket, if that will focus, and you can see that it's arced over and the centre contacts are all melted. And you can actually see the residue that's been left on the PCB where that's flashed over. So I didn't check whether these were working or not, and I probably should have done. We just have a look at the cable. Yeah, and you can, if you look at the cable, you can see that it's arced over as well. Question is that the same as a 3.1 type 1 cable, which we've got here? And yes, it does look. It looks like it's got a slightly shorter centre pin. That's the replacement cable. We'll just see if that will go in here. Yeah, so no problem there. If you get a pair of She straighteners in, the type 1 cable will fit in without any issues at all. I'm assuming the length is similar. Certainly use the same type of socket. So let's just swap over to the other side. Now interestingly, we have two adjustment pots here instead of the 3.1 single pot. What's happening here is they are controlling each element individually, and you probably can't see. I'll take this out, but this is also protected by its own fuse, so they've decided to take care of business on each side separately, and yeah, there you go. It's exactly the same as the other side. I'm not going to take that side apart, it's clearly exactly the same. Just going to take the circuit board out and have a closer look. Yeah, it's pretty well made. I don't think we've got any issues with the build quality. Nice to see all the terminals screwed in place. The switch side, they've obviously changed from the original 3.1 type switch to this newer 4.2 type switch. Yeah, no issues with any of that at all. So yeah, interesting. Also interesting that has clearly arced over at some point. It will be interesting to see whether these actually work. Yes, I got these for, I think it was about £30 ex-demo. Not that you would know they were ex-demo. So yeah, just have a recap here. I don't think you're going to be able to use the arms. Not that you'd want to, because they say She, but you know, if you were desperate and needed to repair some 3.1s and couldn't get the arms. Circuit board, well, that's no good. You can't use that in the originals, and you can't use the original circuit board in the new ones, so of no use whatsoever. The cover we were going to check. the old cover fit the new GHDs and vice versa? Well, yes, they will. The recessed part is in a slightly different position. On the originals, the recessed bit for the O-ring is slightly further towards the main body of the straighteners, and on this She cap it's slightly out. Don't think it would be an issue. So yeah, the same here. It's just a small amount out. You can barely see it, so it wouldn't make any difference. So we can clearly use that. We know the cable's fine, so I'm going to get rid of that. I wonder if we can use the actual arm assembly. We know the circuit board won't fit. Let's just see if anything else fits. I'm just going to put those silicons back in. So we've got the She plastic arm and the genuine elements, and that absolutely fits fine. No issues there. Said the circuit board definitely doesn't fit. And it goes in, but you cannot screw it down in both places. And just wondering whether that does. Yeah, because you can't screw that down, it's not going to be acceptable. But it does look like you could use the arm if you swapped the circuit board over. But yeah, so pointless exercise. I think there would be no point in buying these She for the parts. As far as coming out of the same factory, yeah, possibly. The ceramic plates look the same. They've changed the design of the mounting plates and the way they operate, so the circuit board's different. So yes, they may well have come out of the same factory. I've got no issues with the build quality. Plastic feels cheaper. It's kind of rougher, if that makes sense. It just feels a bit cheaper, but you'd expect that. So some of the parts you could use, you could probably repair the She's if they came in for repair with 3.1 parts mostly, obviously not the circuit board, but they were generally reliable anyway. The switch on the 3.1s was always an issue, and that had to be stripped down to be cleaned and reassembled. So yeah, if you're looking at buying the She's as a customer, I don't see any particular issues. They're fairly well made. Both sides are protected with the thermal fuse, possibly repairable, and they're only what, £50 I think, or less than that on eBay. So yeah, from a repairer's point of view, then you're going to get a few parts out of it, but not worth buying for the parts. And if you do get a pair in for repair, then yes, you're going to be able to repair them, I would think, with mostly existing parts, unless the circuit board has failed. But looking at that, there's no reason for anything to go on there. Pretty much like the original 3.1s. So yeah, there we go. Hope that was useful.